Okay, I think we are live. Hello, world. Welcome to Mr. FLIXTER Show, where I have hot takes on movies and rankings, interviews, all kinds of fun stuff about pop culture. In tonight's episode, I'm going to do my spoiler-free review of The Monkey. And then I'm going to talk about the best and worst Stephen King horror adaptations. But before I get to that, I've got a birthday that we had recently that I want to talk about, and we got to talk about the weekend box office. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Live from Niagara Falls, it's Mr. FLIXTER Show on Saturday night. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for clicking on my video. Hello, world. I'm Chris Anthony, aka Mr. FLIXTER. Mr. FLIXTER. Okay. So before I get to the main topic, Michael Keaton had a birthday recently. So let's pull up IMDb, shall we? So make sure I'm sharing the screen. Put myself in the corner. Here we go. Michael Keaton. There we go. All right, so look at that picture up. Go away. I'm not sponsored. Here we go. There's a picture. Michael Keaton was born on September 5th, 1951, in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania. He turned 74. Can't you believe it? Now, aside from Batman and Beetlejuice, he's had a lot of other roles, a wide variety. He really shows off his versatility as an actor throughout his career. Go away. There we go. I'm not sponsored. So did I miss it? No, I didn't go. A little further. Here we go. Credits. Let's just do actor. Now, of course, Beetlejuice was last year, and he reprised his role as Batman in The Flash in 2023. The movie got a lot of hate, but I liked it. Oh, I forgot he was in Dumbo. What else was he in? Spider-Man Homecoming. Of course, he played the Vulture. He's great in that one. The Founder is pretty good. That was 2016. Oh, I didn't know he was in the Minions movie. That's cool. Birdman's really good. That was 2014. I forgot he was in the RoboCop remake. 2014. That wasn't a very good movie, though. What else? Here's one of my personal favorites, The Other Guys from 2010. Let's see what else. Oh, I forgot he was in Cars. 2006. Hard to believe the first Cars came out that long ago. Yeah, he was in White Noise. That one's not bad. 2005. Oh, he was a guest star in King of the Hill. I didn't know that. For one episode in 2003. That's cool. And he was a guest star in Frasier. And The Simpsons. How about that? 2001. Jack Frost. That's a pretty good one. That was 1998. We're in the 90s now. Jackie Brown's really good. That's Quentin Tarantino. 1997. Multiplicity is probably one of his best. 96. I love Multiplicity. Much Ado About Nothing is hilarious. 93. Of course, we got Batman Returns. 92. My personal favorite Batman. He's my favorite Batman too, by the way. Of course, Batman in 89. Of course, Beetlejuice was 88. And then Mr. Mom's really good too. That's an early one. 83. Oh, I didn't realize that was that long ago. Wow. Cool. Let's see, what was his first job? He was a volunteer on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. No way. For 3 episodes. Wow. And he was on Maude. I didn't know that. In 77. My girlfriend likes that show. Let's see. These are all TV. He did a lot of TV before he started doing movies. Miniseries, TV series. Here we go. His first movie was Night Shift in 1982. I don't think I've seen that one. Interesting. Mr. Mom was only a second movie. Wow. So yeah, that's Michael Keaton. Happy birthday. I'm really glad he was able to reprise his role as Batman too. Let's get one last look at him. Happy birthday, Michael Keaton. I just released my review for Batman 89 as well. I try to get that out around his birthday. So the video is available on my channel if you're interested. I've also got 3 other Batman videos. Let's go back. Here we go. So those are all available on my channel if you're interested. Let's see. What's going on here? Here we go. Okay. Now let's talk about the weekend box office. Or what I like to call the weekend box office update. Oh, hold on, I gotta share my screen first. Here we go. One more time. Head stage. Sorry, my computer's being slow. Whoa, what is happening? Okay. I'll stop clicking stuff. Here we go. All right. So last week was the 29th to the 4th. So let's see. Looks like number 1 was Weapons. Last week it was number 1 as well. It made 15 million. 0.4. I'll say 0.5. I'll round up. And not a bad loss either. It's still in a ton of theaters, and it's been out for 4 weeks, so it's doing really well. That's the horror movie about the witch who targets the children. They leave the classroom and they never come. Well, they leave their houses at a certain time, and then they never come back. It sounds really creepy. The previews look really good too. I've yet to see that one, but I'm looking forward to it. And number 2 is Caught Stealing. I have seen this one. That one's pretty good. I might do a review for that one. I'm not sure yet. It made 11.7 million. And that was the first week. Okay, and number 3 was Jaws. They re-released that for the 50th anniversary. I got a review for that on my channel too. So if you're interested, it was back in July 4th weekend. This movie takes place on July 4th. I did a whole episode about Jaws. It made $11.3 million. Not bad for a movie that's 50 years old. That would be cool to see in theaters, though. At number 4, we had Freakier Friday. it dropped a spot. It made about $10 million. Still not a lot of theaters. It's made $84 million so far. It's been out for 4 weeks. It's doing pretty good. At number 5 is The Roses. That's the romantic comedy. It looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to that one too. It's made I'll say $5 million. It's in over 2,000 theaters, so it's doing pretty well. It's got almost 10 million. It's opening weekend. Not bad, not bad. At number 6, we have Fantastic Four, First Steps. This made $7.5 million. And it's been out for about 6 weeks. The total is $267.3 million. So it's not doing as good as I thought it would do. I have yet to see that one too. At number 7, I'm looking forward to it. It's the MCU. I'm curious how they treat the Fantastic Four. Number 7 is The Bad Guys 2. Last week it was at number 5, so it dropped 2 spots. Oh, look at that. Fantastic Four also dropped 2 spots. Makes sense, though, because those other releases. Anyways, Bad Guys 2 made $6.9 million. And it's made $75.2 million so far after 5 weeks. So that's doing really well. And number 8 is Superman. Still holding strong. That made another $3.8 million. It's still in about 2,000 theaters, and it's got $352.3 million. So that's doing amazingly. Or dare I say, super. I could resist. And number 9 is Nobody 2, dropping 3 spots. It made $2.8 million. Ooh, that's a big Okay, I'm back, kind of. Here I am. I'm back. Sorry about that, people. And thank you, Sabrina, for the comment. We seem to be experiencing technical difficulties. Please be patient while we fix the issue. We apologize for any inconvenience. Thank you, Sabrina. So, like I was saying, I just got to share my screen. Hold on. Okay. So, like I was saying, I was just rounding out the bottom 15 here. Well, the last four. Toxic Avenger was 2.6. Jurassic Park World Rebirth was 2.1. F1 was 1.8. Lilo and Stitch holding strong at 1.7. And then Honey Don't at 1.4. Okay, that's the weekend box office. Here we go. Now. Oh, she said you're welcome. Oh, thank you. Okay. And now, the main event. Okay, so let's go to IMDb and I'll pull up the poster. If it'll share the screen. Okay. Why is this not working? Okay, I'm back again. Sorry about that. It seemed to be having internet problems tonight, but I'll keep going for now and see how it goes. The show must go on. So I just got to share the screen. Let's go entire screen. Share. Next stage. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, so let's go to the monkey. So this came out in February of this year, 2025. Go away, I'm not sponsored. It was directed by Osgood Perkins, son of Anthony Perkins. It was written by Osgood Perkins and was based on the Stephen King short story. I'll get a little bit more into that later on. Here's the poster. I love the poster. There it is. So creepy. Okay, so here's the synopsis. A series of gruesome deaths start when twin brothers find their father's vintage toy monkey in the attic. They grow apart over the years after the siblings decide to throw the toy away to move on with their lives. Does this flick go to the beat of a different drum? Like I was saying, the film was based on the short story of the same name that was first published in Gabriel magazine in 1980, which was revised for another publication collection called The Skeleton Crew in 1985. The film was made on a budget of about $10 to $11 million, and it made $68.9 million at the box office. What I like about this film, I'll start with the things I like. Writer-director Osgood Perkins is a confident, competent filmmaker. This film contains some of his most striking imagery. There's a lot of really cool shots in this scene, like when the monkey twirls the stick in his hand before he does that final slam on the drum. It's also got a huge tonal shift as opposed to his other movie last year, Long Legs. Yet his style is still evident. Admittedly, the script is more funny than I expected. I mean, this movie is hysterical. I laughed out loud most of the time. But I can see how the film's irony and snarkiness can undermine the commentary it's trying to make on a more serious note when it comes to stuff like parenthood, sibling rivalry, and death itself, though. And they aren't afraid to push the boundaries when it comes to gross out gore. The kills range from super elaborate to simply straightforward, and they're all effective because of how over the top cartoonish the level of violence is. This movie's like a live action Looney Tune. I love it. It's refreshing how there's no jump scares either. It doesn't rely on that. Rather than following the standard cursed object formula, the script takes unexpected turns. For example, these plot lines usually involve people that find an innocent looking object by accident. It's followed by a string of deaths. They question whether or not it's the object or not. Next, the people try to destroy this cursed object, only to fail in the process. And then there's always that final twist ending that they find out the object still exists. They couldn't get it out of their lives. Instead of leaning fully into the supernatural aspects of things, the film introduces psychological and intergenerational family trauma as competing explanations. Therefore, the fear comes out of not just the object, but from what the object represents. And the presence of the monkey is felt throughout the entire film because of this. What I mean by that is instead of being purely evil, the object becomes a conduit for memory, guilt, and loss. Much of the horror is rooted from family dynamics due to past tragedies, not just the monkey's actions alone. Therefore, the monkey is a symbol of haunted childhoods. It's not just cursed fate or death itself. It's got multiple layers, and I like how they set that up that way in the story. And I love the song that the toy monkey plays too. It's called I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside. Just want to make sure I said that right. I do like to be beside the seaside. Yeah, okay, that screwed me up. That song was written by John H. Gloverkind in 1907. I like it because it's got a creepy carnival / circus sound to it. And it has that old-fashioned vibe to it too. So it really helps with the creepy aesthetic of the movie. It perfectly suits the toy monkey and the movie itself. On my Instagram, I play there's a little clip of it with my post about this live stream. So I just want to take a second, make sure I'm still streaming. Looks like we're good. Cool, cool. I'm also a fan of James Wan. He was the producer. I didn't mention that before, but he makes good movies. You know it's going to be good when he's involved. I love how there's several nods in The Monkey to other horror movies, like how there's a pawn shop in the first scene, and it's reminiscent of the pawn shop in Leprechaun 3. And then the babysitter for the twins is named Annie Wilkes, like from Misery. And then if you look closely, you can spot the red truck from Pet Sematary. There's also a kill involving bees in the mouth that's reminiscent of Candyman. And there's a painting or some kind of a framed image of Castle Rock that appears in a motel room, like midway through the movie. There's also a character named Mrs. Torrance, like from The Shining. So I thought that was fun. Those are some of the things I noticed. If I missed anything, leave comments below and we can talk about it. As far as the cast is concerned, the way that Christian Convery, sorry if I butchered that, plays the young twins, Hal and Bill, is phenomenal. I thought it was two different people until the credits proved me wrong otherwise. That really threw me off. I was really surprised it was only one person. That kid is a good actor. Theo James plays the adult twins. He brings nuance and subtlety to each role, portraying how the trauma tied to both the monkey and their fractured childhood has shaped them both in distinct ways. He balances grief, guilt, and moments of dark comedy skillfully. He's got the perfect narrator voice, too. He should narrate like every Stephen King book on Audible. That'd be awesome. I could listen to his voice all day. Tatiana Maslany plays their mother, Lois, in a small yet impactful role. Her relationship with her sons is the heart of the film, really. Maslany's performance is subtle yet layered. Her scenes add emotional gravitas, which explains much of the intergenerational trauma of the boys. Colin O'Brien is Petey, who is Hal's son. So he adds another dimension of the generational emotional damage to the story. While he's a relatively minor character, he doesn't show up until like halfway through the movie. He becomes a crucial mirror to the young twins in the past. Because a chunk of the movie is the boys in the past, and then it goes them into present day, and then it has his son later on. Adam Scott plays the twins' absent father. He's an important figure who appears in flashbacks or fragmented memories, shaping the family's dysfunction and emotional void. Elijah Wood has a cameo as the new husband of Hal's ex-wife, in a quirky, unexpected cameo. Certainly worth mentioning. He provides one of the film's more comedic moments, underscoring Hal's jealousy and sense of displacement as both a father and a man. Osgood Perkins even makes a cameo as Chip Zimmer. That's Lois's older brother, who would be Hal and Bill's uncle. You still following me? His cameo is hilarious, too. He's not even recognizable. So, overall, this flick certainly goes to the beat of its own drum. The highly stylized direction, paired with dark, sharp wit in the script, complement the cast well. It's more emotionally grounded than I expected, and it's less concerned with the supernatural lore, but it still provides a dimension mashup emphasizing how to blend extreme horror with absurd dark comedy. This provides strong appeal for fans of graphic kills and dark humor. It's the best of both worlds, really. The film works well because the actors fully commit. The ensemble cast succeed in blending the emotional realism with the surreal horror, with those comedic moments in between them. Given the ridiculous premise, real emotional stakes, I actually cared about these characters and their fates. There's honestly no weak links in the cast. Even the small roles were filled purposely. You can see why those actors fit those roles so well. However, I can see how people would have issues with the tone and the pacing. I can see how it could be jarring for some people. Another minor criticism that I have is that there's no real explanation for the origin of the monkey or how to defeat it. It's both a literal killer and a metaphor for the emotional baggage we inherit, therefore it can't escape. It emphasizes the emotional catharsis over offering no clean resolution to the conflict, just emotional truth, which I can see as being more realistic. You can't just solve your life problems, especially deeply rooted emotional issues, overnight. But still, some closure would have been good. Without saying too much, I don't want to spoil anything. There's just no real resolution. I won't say what happens. This flick kind of reminds me of Malignant, Final Destination, The Omen, American Werewolf in London, and Child's Play. I imagine this is what if Imaginary should have been like too. I got a feeling this is what they're going for. They just couldn't go as hard R as this one goes. But let's face it, toy monkeys, especially ones with the symbols, are inherently scary. Fun fact, they had to change the design of this monkey to a symbol monkey to a monkey with like a snare drum or something like that. Because believe it or not, Disney actually copyrighted that version of that toy monkey because it appears in Toy Story 3. Even though that kind of monkey existed like 100 years before Toy Story was even created. But I didn't know you could copyright something like that. But whatever. It's too bad, but they make it work. I'm also disappointed that the titular monkey doesn't have any personality whatsoever. The whole time I expected him to speak, but he doesn't. So, if you like cursed object movies, because they don't make cursed object movies anymore, like as much as they used to, not good ones anyways, then I highly recommend this. Let's go back to me. Remove this. Oh, my official grade for the monkey is a large popcorn. And if you're not familiar with my rating system, I got a video about that on my channel too. And remember, the monkey isn't like life. So, take two. And remember, the monkey isn't lifelike. It's like life. No, now, let's talk Stephen King horror adaptations. As much as I appreciate his dramatic work, tonight is all about horror. So this isn't going to be a ranking. I'm just going to go through some of the adaptations in chronological order. Point out the good ones and point out the bad ones. I'll try to be nice, but let's face it. Some of them are just plain bad. Looks like we're still streaming okay. Check my signal. Signal's okay, strong. Good, good. Okay. So let's go back to IMDb. Put myself in the corner. There we go. So the first Stephen King adaptation is Carrie. Try that again. Carrie. It didn't type the first time for some reason. There we go. There was a remake too, but I'm not going to talk about that one. It's not good. It's not really worth talking about. Here's the poster for the original. I love this poster. Okay. So, Carrie came out in 1976. It was directed by Brian De Palma. It was written by Lawrence D. Cohen. And the original novel was released in 1974. So just 2 years after the novel came out, the movie came out. It stars Sissy Spacek, John Travolta, and Piper Laurie. It was made on a budget of $1.8 million, and it made $33.8 million at the box office at the time. So the reason why I think, okay, well, first of all, I'm going to head myself. Let's go back to me real quick. I had a little intro and everything, and I almost forgot to say it. There we go. Okay. So the reason I picked these Stephen King horror adaptations is because I thought they were some of the most terrifying. I'm also going to judge them on their faithfulness to the book. I'm also going to tell you what King's opinion was for each of these ones because I looked it up, and how each of these movies influenced it, and how each of these movies had the influence and legacy. So there's 4 things we're going to cover for each of the movies. Why it's terrifying, the faithfulness to the book, King's opinion, as well as its influence and legacy. Okay, here we go. Again, I apologize, I meant to say that before. At the stage, corner. Yay, it's working. Carrie. So, why it's terrifying. The terror in Carrie comes not just from the telekinetic powers, but from the deep emotional trauma, religious fanaticism, and bullying. The emotional realism is what truly makes this film disturbing. Carrie's abuse at home by her zealot mother is also a factor. It's got cruel high school bullying, and accumulates to the infamous pig's blood prom scene. It's got a slow burn, too, of humiliation, building up toward the catastrophe at the end. And Carrie's telekinetic abilities could represent repressed rage and adolescent transformation, almost as like a metaphor for puberty and womanhood. So there's a lot of themes going on, a lot of subtext. As far as faithfulness goes, the movie's moderately faithful. De Palma keeps the core plot intact. Some of the major differences are the structure is a little bit different. The novel is told through newspaper clippings and book excerpts, and reports relating to the events going on. So the book feels more like a documentary, and the film tells a more linear story, more like a conventional film. So that's the only difference, really. Oh, and the characters are oversimplified. But as far as King's opinion goes, he said in various interviews, quote, "The Palma's Carrie is a good movie. It's not the book, but it's good on its own way," end quote. So I'd say that's pretty positive. He could have said worse. As far as influence and legacy, this is one of the most respected King adaptation among critics and fans. It sparked a wave of female rage horror stories, and the blood-soaked prom image became an iconic pop culture reference. So many TV shows and other movies to reference Carrie. So yeah, I put this as one of the best myself. I have to agree. Next on the list, Okay, I'm back. Here we go. Sorry about that. Back to what I was saying. I was talking about The Shining. If you're just joining us, I just reviewed The Monkey. Now I'm going over the best and worst Stephen King adaptations in chronological order, according to why it's terrifying, faithfulness to the book, King's opinion, as well as its influence and legacy. So, like I was saying, here's the poster. Wait, am I sharing the screen? No, I wasn't. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, share the screen. Okay, let's do this again. Share the screen. If it'll let me. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. Here we go. Poster. Let's hide this. There we go. So, like I was saying, the budget was $19 million, and the box office at the time was $48 million. The reason it's terrifying is because the atmospheric dread, the isolating setting, which was the Overlook Hotel, the eerie silence, the long tracking shots, and the psychological breakdown. It's all about Jack Torrance's descent into madness, and it feels disturbingly real. It's also got the supernatural horror aspect, with ghostly visions and the shining element. This gives this sense of the unknown for the film, adding to that atmosphere. And it's got iconic moments. Hi. And it's got iconic moments. Like here's Johnny. It's got the twins. It's got the elevator blood scene. And red rum, red rum. However, as far as faithfulness to the book goes, it's not very faithful. Kubrick kept the basic premise, but changed Jack's character arc. In the film, he's already unstable. There's not as much of a descent as there is in the book. In the book, he starts off as a nice guy. In the beginning of the movie, he's an asshole. And also Wendy's role. In the book, she's a lot stronger, but in the movie, she's more passive. And the ending differs too. In the book, the hotel explodes, but in the film, there's the frozen hedge maze scene. Let's just see if I'm still going. Okay, cool. So as far as King's opinion goes, he hated this movie, and he was very public about it. In numerous interviews, he said, and I quote, "It's like a Cadillac without an engine," end quote. He disliked the themes, the portrayal of Jack. He thought he was too crazy from the start, and Wendy was too weak. He felt that Kubrick misunderstood the book's themes of family, addiction, and redemption. But as far as influence and legacy is concerned, many consider this a masterpiece. I mean, it even says it on the poster. And it spawned decades long of analysis and theories in different film classes and amongst critics and fans themselves. It also inspired a sequel, Dr. Sleep, which came out in 2019, but I'll get to that one later. So, as far as my opinion goes, I'm not really a fan of The Shining. I don't like this movie. I think it's one of the worst adaptations. So, moving on. The next adaptation is Creepshow. I can't not talk about Creepshow, the original. I mean, look at this poster. It's awesome. Sponsored. I love the old hand-drawn posters. This is everything about the movie. It came out in 1982. Creepshow was directed by George A. Romero, and Stephen King wrote the screenplay. The magazine release was about 1976 and 1982 because it consists of 5 short stories plus a prologue and an epilogue as a framing device. But only 2 of the segments were adapted short stories from Stephen King. The other ones were just written for the film, and those 2 were The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill and The Crate. I forgot to write down the cast for this one. Hold on. Go away. Nasir. Okay, the cast has Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbaro, Fritz Weaver, Vivica Linford, Leslie Nielsen, E.G. Marshall, Kerry Nye, and Ed Harris. The poster. Okay. At the time, this had an $8 million budget, and it made $21 million at the box office. The reason I think it's terrifying is because rather than a single creeping dread, the terror comes from both grotesque imagery, like the creature in the crate, or the slow fate of Geordie Vale, plus the moral twist. People get punishment for misdeeds like infidelity, cruelty, greed, etc. That moral horror is kind of typical in King stories. And then there's that combination of something that's mundane with something supernatural or grotesque. That contrast heightens both shock and discomfort. I also love the comic book framing. It both amplifies and undercuts the tension. It's supposed to represent the old comics from like the 50s and stuff. As far as the faithfulness goes for the book, the 2 stories that were adapted are fairly faithful. I mean, King wrote the screenplay himself, so he's not going to veer too far from his own story. But there are some changes in the movie, like the creature design, the pacing. The comic book framing wasn't really in the short stories. They added that for the film. They put more gore in the movie. But they kept the spirit. As far as King's opinion goes, Creepshow is generally seen by the audience and critics and Stephen King through indirect comments that don't have a direct quote as one of the better adaptations, especially when it comes to anthology movies and his anthologies. As far as influence and legacy, there's a lot of movies that are similar to Stephen King's other movies, but I guarantee you haven't seen anything like Creepshow before. Stylistically, it's a loving homage to EC horror comics of the 50s, like Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. This visual style is used for transitions between the segments, and it's to reinforce that aesthetic. It also encouraged more anthology horror films and TV shows. Visually and tonally, Creepshow is often cited as a cult classic. It's not just fun and scary, but hyper stylized, making the horror a little bit more approachable, but still packs a punch. Like I said, this poster says it all. That's the art style. And this spawned 2 sequels. And later there was that anthology TV show that started in 2019. That's why I had to mention Creepshow. Just want to make sure I'm still going. Okay, we're still live. Very good. Next on the list is one of my personal favorites, Cujo. This came out in 1983. Oh, I'm not sponsored. Fun fact, Stephen King actually forgot that he wrote this story because of the drugs he was on at the time, and he's admitted that publicly. That's kind of hilarious. Okay. Cujo came out in 1983. It was directed by Louis Teague. Sorry if I butchered that. It was written by Don Carlos Dunaway and Barbara Turner, but under the pseudonym Lauren Currier. The novel was released in 1981. Hold on. I have this one right here. The novel was released in 1981. Let's go back to the poster. The movie stars Dee Wallace, Daniel Hugh Kelly, Danny Pinatoro, Ed Lauter, and Christopher Stone, as well as Miko Hughes. No, wait, sorry, wrong movie. I don't know why I wrote that down there. Sorry, my apologies. Not him. The budget was $6 million. And the box office is $21.2 million at the time. Why this one is terrifying, in my opinion, is the realistic horror. A beloved dog turns rabid and traps a mother and her child in a sweltering hot car. The idea alone is just terrifying. There's no supernatural elements to it, just raw claustrophobic fear. It doesn't help if you have a fear of dogs, too. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, it's pretty faithful, except the novel is told from the dog's point of view. And the ending in the book is a lot darker. In the book, the child dies. In the movie, he lives. They gave it a bit of a happier ending. As far as King's opinion goes, he loved it. He called the movie, quote, terrific, and he praised Dee Wallace for her performance. He also approved of the happier ending. He kind of regretted that one after reading it, I guess. But like I said, he couldn't even remember it. As far as the legacy and the influence, this became a cult horror classic. It's known for its tension and its realism, and it's still considered to be one of the better King adaptations to this day. Although I have heard rumors that there's a remake being discussed, so I don't know how that's going to be. We'll see. So yeah, that's Cujo. I think it's highly underrated. It's one of my personal favorites. Still streaming, good. So I do consider that one of the better adaptations. Minor differences, but no big deal. I understand the change. You got to make it relatable for the audience, right? With the human characters. Next up on the list is Christine. Let's try that again. Christine. There it is. Let's bring up this picture. Yeah, cool. Christine is directed by John Carpenter and was written by Bill Phillips. The novel was released in 1983. So the movie and the novel came out the same year. It stars Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexandra. Hold on, I don't think I spelled that right. Let's just go to the cast list here. That doesn't look right. Double check my information. Yeah, that didn't look right. Alexandra Paul. Okay. Cool. Also stars Harry Dean Stanton, Robert Blossoms, John Stockwell, Robert Prowse, Christina Belford, William Ostrander. There we go. Yeah. Here's the poster. This is the one all about the killer car. I've actually seen a replica of this at, I think it was Comic-Con. It was pretty cool. It was made with a budget of $10 million. This was made in the budget of $10 million, and at the time it made $21 million. So the reason why I think this one's terrifying is because it's all about the possessed 1958 Plymouth Fury and how it stalks and kills out of obsessive love. It explores toxic relationships, obsessiveness, teen alienation, and the danger of giving your childhood something. And the danger of giving your childhood something. Oh. And the dangers of something destructive damaging your childhood. Sorry, the way I phrased that before was just weird. It didn't sound right after I read it. Anyways, the car restores itself, which is an unsettling supernatural twist. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, it's fairly faithful, but it trims the backstory and the inner thoughts. It also removes the deeper supernatural history of the car's previous owner. But as far as King's opinion goes, he's generally positive. He liked what Carpenter did, and he thought the adaptation was solid, although it wasn't as impactful as Carrie. It's become a cult classic over the years, though, when it comes to influence and legacy. And it influenced other killer vehicle movies. It showed King's more out there ideas, too, and how they could still work on screen, so it would be taken seriously. There's another pick on this list about a haunted machine, but it's not as good as Carrie. I'll get to that. And the car is often referenced in pop culture. When you see that red car, you know it's Carrie. So, next on the list, I just want to make sure we're still going. Yep. Okay. Glad we have those technical difficulties behind us. Next is Children of the Corn. Here we go. This is a cool poster too. Here it is. Awesome. This came out in 1984. It was directed by Fritz Kirsch. Sorry if I butchered that. It was written by George Goldsmith. It was based on a short story released in 1977. It stars Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton. It was made on a budget of $3 million, and it made $14.6 million at the time. Why it's terrifying is because in this movie, the children are the killers, and they kill the parents. The core horror flips the innocence on its head. Children are typically symbols of purity, not homicidal cultists. Their blank expressions, their eerie chanting, and unquestioning devotion to he who walks behind the rose makes it even more unsettling. Or let's face it, cornfields at night are inherently scary. I would say my three don'ts are the three C's: cornfields at night, clowns, and cabins in the woods. What also makes this movie scary is the religious fanaticism. You see, that's a common theme in Stephen King stories. The children's worship creates this disturbing blend of Old Testament style wrath with Lovecraftian cosmic horror, which is a critique on blind faith, taken to deadly extremes. And also the setting of this desolate Midwestern town. It's this haunting, isolated, post-apocalyptic feel. It really does feel like there's no way out of the situation. As far as the faithfulness to the book goes, it's loosely faithful to the concept and the core elements, but the tone and the ending are very different. The film has more of a happier ending, and the short story doesn't. As far as King's opinion goes, he's reportedly disliked this film, and he criticized it for diluting the psychological horror for poor production choices. He especially doesn't like how the film turned a dark, nihilistic story into a conventional horror flick with cheesy jump scares and a happy ending. As far as influence and legacy goes, this movie is a cult classic. And it's launched a franchise that are 11 movies long now. Well, mostly low quality, like they're not good movies. The first one's the best. And it heavily influenced the evil children subgenre in horror. I have fond memories of this one, sleeping over at my cousin's house, and this is one of the ones that we watched. We watched horror movies all night. We loved Children of the Corn. So, moving on. Next on the list is Silver Bullet. I love a good werewolf story. And Stephen King doing a werewolf story? That's right up my alley. Love the poster too. Look at this. Awesome. Even got a little silver bullet as the eye. It's a nice touch. This was directed by Daniel Attias. And Stephen King wrote the screenplay. The original novella was released in 1983. Why it's terrifying, in my opinion, is the small town paranoia aspect. Everyone's a suspect, and no one feels safe. Then there's the slow reveal about who the werewolf is, which adds tension. The monster turns out to be somebody that you know and trust. So this betrayal adds to the psychological damage. Also, the protagonist in this is a paraplegic boy, which raises the stakes. The atmosphere and the setting, like the foggy forest, the nighttime attacks, and the constant feeling of dread are always persistent in this movie too. And the kills and the practical effects are amazing. This is classic 1980s gore and creature design at its best. Especially during the transformations and the attacks. As far as faithfulness goes, it's fairly faithful. It does expand on King's novella with a stronger focus on the characters. The movie fleshes out the relationships between them. As far as King's As far as King's opinion goes, he thought some production elements, like the werewolf suit, were less than ideal, but overall, he expressed his satisfaction for it. I mean, he did write the screenplay. As far as influence and legacy goes, this was Corey Haim's breakout role. It helped launch his career, cementing his place as an 80s cinema icon. It's also got a unique take on werewolves. It combines mystery, it combines small town thriller, creature feature, and it also influenced a lot of later werewolf films too, by adding that personality and emotional core to those stories. Plus, there's that disabled hero. Marty's one of the rare disabled protagonists, but he's portrayed as resourceful, brave, and fully capable of defending himself. So that's why I like Silver Bullet. I think this is one of the better adaptations. Next on the list is another one of my personal favorites, Pet Sematary. If I can spell. Here we go. I love church. See the cat? Go away. I'm not sponsored. There we go. There's the cat. He's one of the greatest cats in cinema. Here's the poster. This was released in 1989. It was directed by Mary Lambert, and Stephen King wrote the screenplay. The original novel was released in 1983. Oh, hold on. Let's go back to me. Still here? Yeah, still here. Cool. Here I am. There it is. The original novel. Can you see it? There we go. Now there's no glare. There it is. It came out in 1983. I love this book. It's so good. Here's why I love it. I'm getting ahead of myself. Here we go. Oh, wait. Share the screen. Head stage. My computer's being slow. Come on. Doesn't appear to be working. 1 second. I'll just go on. It stars Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynn, Denise Crosby, Brad Greenquist, inconvenience there. For some reason, I'm having a lot of problems with my internet tonight. I don't know why. But the show must go on, so let's share the screen and let's get back to the show. If you're just joining us, I was just talking about Pet Sematary, my personal favorite Stephen King story. Well, one of them. I have a few favorites, but yeah, let's go back. Here's the poster. I just said the cast, so the budget is about $11.5 million. At the time, it made $57.5 million. So the reason why I think this is terrifying is the subject matter alone. The fear of death and grief. At its core, the film explores that parental loss and the grief they experience losing a child, and the desperate lengths someone goes to escape death's finality. Talk about a horrifying situation. No parent should outlive their child, in my opinion. And then there's that quote, if you really think about it, sometimes dead is better. The buried don't return the same. So that idea of resurrection comes with a cost is deeply unsettling. And at the time, the depiction of the death of young Gage was devastatingly shocking. And it's an iconic moment in horror history. And then there's Zelda, Rachel's deformed sister. She is sheer nightmare fuel. As far as faithfulness goes, it is very faithful. I mean, King wrote it himself, right? And he loved how it turned out. He even has a cameo, as far as his opinion goes. But as far as influence and legacy, this one is probably one of Stephen King's most iconic adaptations, which is kind of funny because when he first wrote it, he thought it was too dark and he thought nobody was going to read it. No, it's like when it was more popular. Often cited as a fan favorite and a staple of 80s horror. It also spanned a franchise. There was a sequel and there was a remake. Plus, there was a prequel that came out in 2023 called Bloodlines. This also inspired other grief-based horror films like Hereditary, The Babadook, The Others, where the emotional trauma is the real monster. And if you think about it, he probably took inspiration from this for The Monkey, too, because there's a lot of similar themes you're probably starting to notice in these Stephen King stories. So yeah, that is Pet Sematary. Highly recommend. One of the best. Moving on. Next up is Misery. From 1990. Go away, not sponsored. Here's the poster. I just want to make sure we're still streaming. Yeah, cool. All right, Misery. This was directed by Rob Reiner. The screenplay was written by William Goldman. The original novel came out in 1987. It stars James Caan, Kathy Bates, Frances Sternhagen, Richard Farnsworth, and Lauren Bacall. The budget was $18 to $20 million, and it made $61.3 million at the box office at the time. Why it's terrifying? It's because it relies on psychological tension, not supernatural elements or cheesy, cheap jump scares. The horror comes from believable human madness of Annie Wilkes. Plus, being trapped by a fan isn't that far-fetched, especially nowadays. This is more relatable than ever. So the plausibility makes it far more unsettling. This could actually happen. Bates' performance brings terrifying duality. She's nurturing one moment and then violently psychotic the next. That unpredictability is key to the fear. And then there's the iconic hobbling scene. It's deeply disturbing. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, it's very faithful. The biggest change is that in the book, Annie chops off foot, but in the movie, he breaks his ankles. But the core story and the tone is preserved. As far as King's opinion goes, he loved it. It's one of his personal favorite adaptations. And he praised the direction and the performance of Kathy Bates. As far as influence and legacy goes, Bates won an Oscar for this role, which is cool because horror movies rarely get recognized at the Academy Awards. It also helped redefine what psychological horror could be in cinema. Annie Wilkes is a cultural icon. And it's still considered one of the best Stephen King adaptations ever, and I have to agree. But this next one, oh boy. Now we're getting to the worst. The Lawnmower Man. If I can spell. Uh-oh. Where's the lead? Lawnmower. Come on. Are we still streaming? We are. Right. There it is. Lawnmower Man. Go away. Okay, here's the poster. Maybe. Yeah, here we go. This poster is all right, I guess. Nothing to really rave about. This came out in 1992. It was directed by Brett Leonard. The screenplay was by Brett Leonard and Gimel Everett. The short story was released in 1975. It stars Jeff Fahey, Pierce Brosnan, Jenny Wright, and Jeffrey Lewis. It was made on a budget of $10 million. And at the time, it made $32.5 million. Why it's terrifying? It's the tech horror aspects. A man becomes a godlike digital being through virtual reality. It explores the loss of control, mind manipulation, and the singularity, man becoming one with machine. It's scary because it shows how tech is beyond the human limits and how it keeps evolving. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, this is not faithful at all. The only thing it has in common is the title. King's original story was about a weird supernatural lawnmower man who eats grass and worships Pan. So as far as his opinion goes, he hates this movie. He even sued the film studio to remove his name from the posters and everything because he didn't want to have any affiliation with this film at all. And he won the case. Because basically it had nothing to do with him. They were just trying to make money off his name. So as far as influence and legacy goes, this was one of the earlier depictions of virtual reality in a film. It was kind of ahead of its time in that regard. And it has become a cult classic despite the cheesy CGI. And I can see how it would inspire later tech-based sci-fi horror films like Upgrade and stuff like that. And it's got a terrible sequel. So yeah, this is one of the worst adaptations. The next one, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I hadn't heard of it before, and then I ended up watching it for the first time recently. That one's The Mangler. There it is. I'm just going to read you the synopsis because when I read this, I had to watch it. Oh boy, is it a movie? Are we still going? Yeah, we're streaming. Cool. Let's get right to it. Here's the poster. Oh, wait, I was going to read the synopsis first. Sorry, distracted. Here we go. Go away. Not sponsored. Okay. A laundry folding machine has been possessed by a demon, causing it to develop homicidal tendencies. Hell yeah. Bring it on. And this movie is fun. This is one of those so bad it's good movies. Okay, but anyways, we gotta hit myself. It was directed by Toby Hooper. That's right. The Toby Hooper. Texas Chainsaw Toby Hooper. The screenplay was by Hooper, Stephen David Brooks, and Peter Welbeck. The short story was released in 1972. The movie stars Robert Englund, Ted Levine, and Danielle Matmore. The budget was only $350,000, and it made about $1.8 million at the box office. So this movie made a lot of money when it came out. I don't know why that's so funny. Okay, I can do this. Why it's terrifying is because it takes a mundane laundry press and it turns it into this homicidal killing machine, and it's so funny because the deaths in this are just outrageous and over the top and cartoonish, almost like the monkey. Actually, this and the monkey would be a great double feature. So yeah, watch this one first, actually, and then watch the monkey. That's a good night. It's got a great mix of body horror, and it has some pretty cool occult themes in it, too. It does it better than most movies do, actually. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, the basic premise is still there. I mean, it's about a killer laundry machine, basically. It does take some liberties to kind of expand on the short story to make it a feature-length film. Like, for example, it touches more on the backstory of the washing machine and why it's possessed, which is cool. It's one of the things I didn't like about the monkey. And it's got a more fleshed out subplot involving the police investigation. Plus, it has more demonic rituals than what the short story did, so it really adds to the context of it all. And the tone shifts slightly from bleak and ironic to more overtly grotesque and campy. This movie's so cheesy, I love it. However, as far as King's opinion goes, he's not a fan. And he often lumps it into one of his more of the worst adaptations. It's been critically panned, too. However, as far as influence and legacy goes, it's gained cult status because of its sheer absurdity. It's also got 2 sequels, believe it or not. It's known more as a bizarre horror oddity than a classic, because it's insanely cheesy. It's stupidly silly. And like I said, it's just one of those so bad it's good flicks. Technically, this is not a good movie by any means, as far as like production value, acting, directing. But it's so much fun to watch. Horror fans get it. Moving on. Wait, are we still live? Yeah, still going. Hold on, strong internet. We're almost done. Next up is another one of the worst adaptations, Thinner. This was directed by Tom Holland. That's right, the Tom Holland. Like Child's Play Tom Holland. It was written by Michael McDowell and Tom Holland, too. The original novella was released in 1984. It stars Robert John Burke and Joe Mantegna. The budget was $8 to $17 million. That's all I could find on it. And the box office was about $15 million at the time. So it didn't really make a whole lot of money. The reason it's terrifying is because of the idea of uncontrollable weight loss. And it's got some disturbing body horror moments. There's also that mix of guilt, injustice, and the idea of being cursed. The visual deterioration of the main protagonist is pretty creepy, even though the effects are pretty dated. As far as the faithfulness to the book goes, the plot mostly follows the novella, but he used the pseudonym Richard Bachman so he could release more novels at the time, and the market wouldn't be so saturated with his novels, which is funny if you think about it. But the movie cuts out the internal psychological horror, the stuff going on inside his mind. And the tone in the book is much darker. The movie is more campy and cheesy. As far as King's opinion goes, he's not so much a fan of this one. He reportedly found it disappointing in multiple interviews. Although he hasn't really had any direct quotes or anything publicly bashing it. It's often brought up when people discuss some of the worst adaptations or some of the mid-tier ones. This is more of a cautionary example about how a movie can go wrong as far as tone goes, and characters and pacing. So as far as influence and legacy goes, it's more known for its makeup effects. I mean, at the time, it did win a Saturn Award, so that says something. But yeah, it's only got like a minor cult status. It's just one of those average cautionary tales. So yeah, I think it's one of the worst adaptations. Next on the list is one of the best. And that is 1408. Like I said, this isn't a ranking. I'm just going through chronological order of the release of the movies. Here is the poster. Here is this. Are we still streaming? Yeah, we're good. Cool. Back. All right. Oh. Here we go. Poster. Well, 1408 came out in 2007. It was directed by Mikhail Hofstrom. Sorry if I butchered that. The screenplay was by Matt Greenberg, Scott Alexander, and Larry Karaszewski. Again, sorry if I butchered that. The short story for this was released in 1999. The film stars John Cusack, Samuel L. Jackson, Mary McCormick, and Tony Shalhoub. The budget was $25 million. At the time, it made $133 million. The reason why this is terrifying is because it uses psychological horror and existential dread over gore and monsters. It's all about a haunted hotel room that torments a skeptic writer by manipulating reality and exploiting his personal grief. As far as the faithfulness to the novella goes, it's partially faithful. It expands on King's story so it could fill a full-length feature film. Like the subplot with the dead daughter wasn't in the novella. But it does keep the core themes. It just makes it more cinematic. As far as King's opinion goes, he liked it. He thought it was a, quote, scary, well-made adaptation with a great performance from John Cusack, end quote. He said this in several interviews. As far as influence and legacy goes, well, it's a fairly recent film compared to some of his other ones. It was a critical and commercial success at the time, and people still refer to it as one of King's best adaptations. It also helped revive the interest in smart, psychological, elevated horror, kind of like what A24 does. Next up is one of my personal favorites. That's it. Well, hold on. I have to clarify something first. I have nothing against the original. No, I don't want Sunny. There we go. I have nothing against the original movie. I need to mention this because I didn't have it on my list, but I will address it. If it even has it. I'm not sure how I feel about this TV show, though. What's it even going to be about? Leave comments below and we can talk about it. Maybe I'll give it a chance. Can you persuade me? Okay, where is that? Okay, well, I know when it came out. I think it was 1990. Here it is. Yeah, 90. Okay. I have nothing against this film. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Huh? Show me the poster. There we go. Tim Curry, of course, plays Pennywise in this one. I just didn't think this made-for-TV movie was a very good adaptation, and I think that the newer ones do a much better job. So I do recommend this one. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Go ahead. That's all I'm really going to say about that one, though. But I included that in my thumbnail, too, so I should at least say something about it. And now let's get to It Chapter 1. Because really, I consider It Chapter 1 and 2 one movie. Kind of like Kill Bill. One movie is only half of the story, so you gotta watch both of them. Go away, I'm not sponsored. So we'll talk about this half first. I love this poster. That's so cool. Wait, I just want to check something. Are we still streaming? Yeah, awesome. There we go. Back to the poster. It Chapter 1 was directed by Andy Muschietti. It was written by Chase Palmer, Cary Fukunaga, sorry if I butchered that, and Gary Doberman. I remember it this time. Where is it? Here it is. Look how thick this novel is. Damn. The novel came out. Oh, it's an old book. Sorry. In 1986. I think that was the picture of the boat in the sewer. That's cool. Oh, sorry, the cover's coming off of it. I read this book a lot. It's falling apart. It's an old book. I had it for a very long time. Ursula. Hi, sweetie. That's Ursula. And this is it. You see what I did there? Okay, so this movie stars Bill Skarsgård, Finn Wolfhard, Jaden Lieberher, sorry if I butchered that, Jimmy Ray Taylor, Sophia Lillis, Chosen Jacobs, Jack Dylan Grazer, Wyatt Olaf, and Nicholas Hamilton. The budget for this was $35 to $40 million, and the box office was $704.2 million. That's his highest grossing box office ever. Well, this and the other one, but I'll get to that. Anyways, why this was terrifying? It's because the creepy clown aspect. It's all about childhood fears coming to life. There's other things too. Sorry, Ursula's distracting me. Don't walk on my keyboard, sweetie. Thank you. It's all about emotional trauma. And there's that constant, relentless tension. Always looking over your shoulder because you don't know where Pennywise is going to be next or what form he's going to look like. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, the movie captures the heart of King's story and the themes of friendship, fear, loss, and innocence. And also that feeling of being disfranchised once you hit puberty. It does update some of the settings, though. Like in the book, it begins in the 50s and it takes place in the 80s. In the movie, it takes place in the 80s and then present day, which was 2007. So, I kind of had to update for the times. The book splits the story between the kids and the adults, and this first movie is just about the kids. Also, some of the more controversial elements of the book, like the infamous sewer scene, I won't talk about it. You have to read the book. They were completely omitted. And then there's also Pennywise's origin. The cosmic mythology behind it is only lightly hinted at. They don't really touch on it too much. But for King's opinion, he was very positive and supportive. As far as influence goes, this flick revitalized horror in mainstream cinema, and it really boosted King's screen legacy. There was a big revival of Stephen King adaptations after this was so successful. That's why we're having so many of them now. It also proved that R-rated horror movies could be both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. Plus, Pennywise has joined the ranks of iconic horror villains, like he was before, but this solidified it. Then we got Chapter 2. I kind of like this poster. It's Chapter 2. There it is. This came out 2 years later in 2019, so I give them credit for delivering the sequel so fast. I mean, they didn't even shoot them back to back. So that's cool. This poster is very subtle, very creepy. I like it. It was directed by Andy Muschietti and written by Gary Dauberman. This one stars James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, aka the Axe guy. No, not Axe. Oh, Old Spice. Sorry, the Old Spice guy. No, I'm on a horse. My apologies, I misspoke there. Also got Jay Ryan, James Ransom, Andy Bean, and Bill Skarsgård came back. The budget for this one was $79 million, and the box office was $473 million. So it didn't make as much as the first one did, but together, both movies still made over $1 billion if you think about it. Wow. Excuse me, I just need to get a drink. And I want to make sure we're still going because we're almost done. Yep, still streaming. Cool. All right. So as far as this half goes, it's mostly faithful. It keeps the core characters, it keeps the themes, and this one has the structure that the book one has, because this one goes back and forth between the kids and the adults. And it does include all those iconic scenes, like the Chinese food restaurant and stuff like that. Also, the cosmic elements are more toned down. They're more symbolic in this one than being actually realistic or realized or manifested or anything like that. And they completely changed the ending for clarity and visual impact, because the ending is very abstract in the book. It has to do with like multi-dimensional beings and a macroverse and a giant space turtle. Oh yes, you have to read the book. As far as King's opinion goes, he loves it. He even cameos in this one. He praised the emotional depth, and he thought the ending was much better. However, I don't really like the end of the movie. Something about it doesn't sit well with me. I think they kind of beat Pennywise too easily. So they could have went a different route, I think, for the ending. But overall, I think this is a very good adaptation. It's one of my favorite Stephen King stories. Next up on the list is Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. There it is. That came out in 2019. Love the poster. Very effective. That's so cool. Danny is a kid, and then Danny is an adult. Are we still streaming? Yeah, we are. Yeah, baby. All right. This was written and directed by Mike Flanagan. The original novel came out in 2013. It stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, and Cliff Curtis. This was made in the budget of $45 to $55 million, and it made $72.4 million at the box office. The reason why this movie is so terrifying is because the psychic vampire idea and the true knot, the cult in the book, in the movie, murders kids for their powers. It's also got haunting themes of trauma and addiction. Yeah, you're starting to see patterns and reoccurring themes in all the stories now. One of the reasons why I wanted to go through them back to back to back to back, so you can see the recurring themes that he likes covering. And it's cool because this one also revisits the Overlook Hotel, but I'll get a little more into that a little bit later. As far as faithfulness to the book goes, it's mostly faithful. Some of the major changes were because it also was made to suit the changes that Kubrick made in his movie. So the novel ends differently. The novel is more hopeful and more spiritual. And the hotel in the Shining novel was already destroyed. So Flanagan kind of resurrects the hotel and uses it for the film's climax. And I kind of like how there's the best of both worlds there. And also Danny's fate. He survives in the book, but in the film, he dies heroically, kind of mirroring his father's arc, but in a positive way. So, as far as King's opinion goes, Flanagan's genius, blending King's stories and Kubrick's vision. It seemed nearly impossible at the time, but he did a good job of pleasing both fans and King himself. In fact, King says that this redeemed The Shining for him, Kubrick's movie. So go ahead. As far as influence and legacy goes, it is widely critically praised. Although it was a box office flop, nowadays it's considered a cult classic. And it really helped elevate Mike Flanagan's status as a top-tier horror director. He's gone on to do many things after that. So yeah, that's why I think it's a good adaptation too. Dr. Sleep. And now, the last movie is The Monkey. Yes, I reviewed it, but I didn't really talk about the changes and all the other stuff yet. I was saving that. Kind of wanted to bring things full circle. Here's that poster again. Love it. We're still streaming, right? Yeah, baby. Cool. Last one. Why it's terrifying? Look at that thing. That is scary. It's all about a cursed monkey toy that kills people when you wind up the little, when you turn the key. But the thing is, you don't choose who dies. It picks for you. You don't get a choice. It's extremely gory, like to the point of absurdity. Like I was saying, this is like a live action cartoon, but it's so funny. It's not just a horror movie. This is also a dark comedy, so you have to go into it like that. Plus, it's got eerie sound design, and I love the visuals. It really adds to the horror atmosphere of it all. As far as faithfulness goes to the book, or sorry, short story, it keeps the core concept, but it kind of adds things to it. Like it doesn't have the twin brothers in the book. Sorry, short story. It's also got more gore, more humor, and it adds a lot of the spectacle. So it's not 100% faithful, but it does honor the original. Plus, it adds context to some other things. The monkey's instrument had to be changed, like I mentioned before. So as far as King's opinion goes, he loved it. He appreciates the bold, weird, over-the-top take on the story. He, quote-unquote, calls it batshit crazy. As far as influence and legacy goes, it's a little too soon to tell, but it was critically well received, and it did make quite a bit of money at the box office. So I personally think this is one of King's better adaptations. And it might influence other things in the future because of just how bananas it is, for lack of a better term. But there is that polarizing tone that I mentioned. So that's my list. Let's go back to me. Here we go. Remove. Cool. Okay. So some of the better ones. Quick recap. Carrie, Misery, Silver Bullet, Pet Sematary, It, and Cujo. These are my personal favorite. Ugh. Cujo. Hold on, there it is. And then you got Pet Sematary, character on the cover, and of course, It. I highly recommend you read the stories and watch the movies. Oh. Oh. So that's tonight's episode. Another quick recap. I gave the monkey a large popcorn. If you like what you see and you want to see more, I'll leave links in the descriptions for some of my other videos about other horror movies. It's spooky season, so let's talk horror movies. Until next time, have a good night. Oh, I just gotta, okay. Oh, no, nothing. Movies. Wait, let's try that again. Sorry. Take two.
So, until next time,
I'll see you at the movies.
have a great day. Did you know that I'm a film critic for HorrorBuzz.com? You can read my reviews on their website, and I make frequent appearances on their YouTube channel, HorrorBuzz Live. So I'll leave links below for that too.
Make sure you read more Stephen King books. And read The Shining. I really recommend reading The Shining if you haven't read it yet. Good night.